There we go. Just trying to make sure I've got all of this in the right order. Okay. Okay. So, let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Shanna Bright. I am the founder and managing director and CEO, chief everything officer of Private Clubs Online. I am delighted to have all of you here with us today and with my fabulous Members First partner, Victoria Burns, who is this our second or our third webinar that we've done together?
I think it's our third,
Our
but
third one if we count December, right? The end of the year party. Yes, yes,
it's
yes.
really a party. But yeah,
So, and we're missing Katie Mason today, who is getting married and is in the middle of wedding bliss. So, wedding organization, really, right? Um,
yes.
but today we just wanted to have a conversation and a session with you about your website pages, because I think, I know I'm in the middle of a couple of website projects for a couple of clubs, and I know I'm in the middle of my own website stuff that I'm trying to keep my own website updated. I know it's kind of a point of frustration maybe for some. It's hard to, especially if you're a department that only has one person, it's one more of the tools in your toolbox that you have to keep updated. So today, Victoria and I want to share with you kind of some strategies for content, specifically, the difference between what should we have on our public pages and what we should have on our private pages. So, Victoria, did you want to say hi and give a little self intro?
Yeah, I know a lot of you on the call today, so welcome. But for those of you who do not know me, I've been at Members First for going on 9 years now. And prior to, I worked for 4 different private clubs in Michigan and then in Chicago, and I currently live in Michigan now. But over the last 8 years, basically what I work on daily is creating content for clubs, just from that club perspective, because I've been in your seat. So I love to have strategy sessions and just connect with people in your seat to help you get the most out of software and how you communicate with your members and prospects and guests.
And I love that. And I also have a little bit of club experience. I was a member relations director at the City Club Los Angeles, what feels like 150 years ago. And I think that's really important to bring that into our education sessions. That's why I love partnering with Victoria and with Members First, is because a lot of them have that club experience. So we've been in your shoes. We know what it's like to sit in that office and all the things that happen on a daily basis inside of a club, and that servant's heart that we have in order to serve our members and to serve you. So a little bit about our agenda today. We're going to talk a little bit about what's the purpose of our website. Remember, what is that Sinek quote? People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So it's important to have the why. Identifying our goals for the website. And then we're going to kind of toss back and forth between different content ideas for both the public and the private side. And then we'll answer any questions and hear what your takeaways are. What are the strategies that you will kind of take from today's session and start implementing right away? We have a couple of polls and questions and fun interactive parts for you today too. So if you are a CMAA member and you would like to earn your other education credit, I put that in quotes, other education, because that's how they have us say of what you're actually earning. Go ahead and put your CMAA number in the chat box. Wait until the end, until you get your checkout code word, and that will help us comply with the CMAA standards that we need to comply with for the other education credits. All right, so websites versus social media. I think this is a really important place to start in terms of the purpose of our website. I know a lot of our focus in communication, in member communication, is on our social media. Oh, what's our social media strategy? How are we going to reach our members through social media, whether it's public or private? And it's important to remember that it is rented space. So I don't know if you remember, Victoria, do you remember that big, I think it was like October of 22, where Facebook and Instagram were down for more than 8 hours, something like that. Was that?
Do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
I
a
mean, it
mad
was
dash for those who didn't have the website.
right. It was a huge outage on Facebook's, on Meta's, part, where no one had access to their Facebook, no one had access to their Instagram. And this is something that, while that particular outage was extensive, it was over 8 hours, I think, at least six, definitely eight, probably a little bit more. If your whole business is based on your social media strategy, that was a very bad day for you. And those outages, while they can happen on that scale, they can also happen on smaller scales where you don't have access for an hour or two or even 30 minutes, or you're having trouble posting. There's a glitch somewhere and what you thought you were going to post doesn't post. So the point being that it's not space that you own, it's rented space. That's not where you should really focus on building your brand, in terms of that's not yours, right? You have to comply with their rules and their algorithms and the way that they want the platform to work, not the way that you want to build your brand on your website. So the website is a space that you can actually own, right? This is where you actually own your space. So the choice land, the land where all the people are, is already owned by somebody else, right? Google, Facebook, Twitter, or X, LinkedIn, Yahoo. It's tempting to build your brand there because everybody obviously uses social media every day, but don't. There's plenty of land out there for us to use in our website. So what do you own? What are assets that we actually own? I love the fact that we still own our newsletters. A lot of members, or a lot of clubs, are still producing newsletters, whether it's printed or digital, and of course any of the printed materials. What else do you love that clubs own, Victoria?
Um, I would say, just starting from that, just to piggyback off that, and I'll tell you what my thing is that I think clubs own. I just think that clubs, and probably everyone on the call today has a website, and it's starting to become more attractive as we like push the envelope of posting on Instagram more, or doing those things to like make sure we have that done, because that's so instant. So everyone's going to see that. So maybe I should do it first. But in the hierarchy of like keeping yourself organized in your roles, foundationally starting with your digital front door, which we're going to talk about, at your website, helps to spin off from all these other areas, whether it's this, to push notifications, to digital screens throughout your club or community, different email campaigns, whether it's board information, to um, you know swim schedule, which I think we're going to use as an example later. That's great information to know, like where to park and do those things. On Instagram, you can share that because people are going to instantaneously see it on Instagram, but it is really good to remember that, push out a foundation from your website first, which will help you create content for the social media platforms.
Well, it's also a good point in terms of just recycling your content. As you mentioned, we spend a lot of time, especially on the newsletter, when we think about our long form content, our newsletter articles, blog posts on our website, which we'll talk about too. When we're sharing those long form pieces of content, being able to take that and have that be a starting point, and breaking it down into the other formats, into something that's shorter on your email, or a notice on the digital screen, or then something that eventually goes out to your social media. I think that's a great way to kind of a scale of like biggest to smallest, and the social media is definitely kind of the smaller scale content. Um, of course, you own your website, right?
Yeah, so this is your digital front door, right? So you're going to go to a beautiful club like the Silver Leaf Club, and you're going to engage there as a guest or a member, and you are going to engage some form of way in a digital aspect, whether it's trying to figure out how you can join and what information you can get online, from your experience you just had as a guest, or making a reservation, signing up for junior programs for the summer, all of those things. Like, we know those basics of what your website is. But there is different content that you're creating. And, I think we've just, really stressed that using that content in different ways is super important. So what does the purpose of your website serve overall? And we've broke it down into several different items. And, this is an extension to your club, right? It's that front door, that first engagement digitally when they're on their phones or sitting on their computer or looking up the club. It is extension to your club culture. So your team and how they interact and present and serve that hospitality they give to your members, that creates your club culture to provide a really great experience for your members. And that can come out in visual aids. We're going to look at different ways that it creates that culture today. Your story and your history. These are things that are so rich. And the last club I worked for on the North Shore of Chicago, we had a whole room dedicated to the history of the club. And it was like walking in a time capsule.
Mm.
But you can also take that history and share it very elegantly and in your story of your history of who you are as a club without giving all the little secrets of the background to the public side of your site, as well as educating your members as they're joining your club, because that history and the tradition only continues by educating and sharing that information. Um, how do you think sense of belonging is really used through the website, Shanna?
Well, I think it's, when your members or your potential members, I always think, well, who's visiting the website? Your members, obviously, they have to go in the front door in order to go into the member login. And then we have all the private pages, but then also the public pages for our potential members. Every guest, at least the club that I grew up in, we treated every guest as a potential member. That's how we viewed them. So we through our photos, through our visuals, through the content that we have on there, we can create that sense of belonging in terms of, I fit in here, or will I fit in here? Are these my people, right? So it's something that it's kind of a weird thing to think of. This is the purpose of our website, but our website definitely can create that sense of belonging, or give off that sense of belonging through the content that we share, both on the public and the private side.
Right. And I think that shows your branding carried through from the first experience that they've ever had. And your website can carry that through to the prospect engagement, that sense of belonging. Every time you're going to update a page, whether it's public or private, how are you presenting that page on the public side to make them feel like, oh, I want to be there, even if it is dress code, which we'll talk about today. They're just the little things that can make it a better experience, which in turn, that experience makes them want to book an event there. Maybe it makes them want to learn more about membership, and they're already connected and they're coming for an experience as a guest to your club. So you need to think about how you're presenting those simple pages that are contact us, that are things that are needed, but definitely visited often. And then functions and features, just displaying all the different ways you have to engage at the club and then your amenities. And it's a great way to uh, feature it in your website in multiple different manners, from your newsletter to individual emails, your push notifications, digital signs, engaging of some content that can be used for, and we'll talk about that today, is just like public and private content, and using it and tailoring it for both sides.
Absolutely. So when we think about the purpose of our website, then there's plenty of clubs that have, privacy restrictions, security restrictions. There's a number of reasons that a club might have a homepage that looks like this. So this is the Bath and Tennis Club. Obviously, there's reasons that they have their homepage like this. But we have to think about too the experience of that potential member or somebody from the community who's looking for information, and they come to the website and this is what they're met with. This is branding. This is the sense of belonging. Do I belong here? Well, maybe not. I'm not a member, so I can't even, there's nothing that I can learn about this particular club or other clubs that have a homepage like this. And again, nothing wrong with it. It's not knocking the Bath and Tennis Club, but just think about what are some of the potential, things that we might want to share with the public to that fits in with our branding, that fits in with any privacy concerns. So this is one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is the Washington Athletic Club, which is basically saying, get to know us online. Our website
Go
offers
straight
an
to the point.
in-depth look at the
Right.
club. But totally opposite. Like, here's everything you can learn on our site. Here's all the different, features. Here's the videos. Here's everything you can do while you're visiting us here on our website. They're almost making their public pages like the club, like a guest center, if you will, for people who visit their website. So kind of both end of the spectrums, you have to find what fits for you, what fits for your brand identity, what fits for your level of member experience and privacy and all of that. Where are you on this particular spectrum? So there's no right or wrong answer. It has to fit for your club, but this just kind of gives you an example from one extreme to the other, right?
And I
So
mean, can I just share that I
yeah.
often, when you see different things for Members First that I might be sharing, I often use some of the top platinum clubs,
Mhm.
because they do push the envelope a little bit more sometimes. And that's a great way to sometimes get your board or the GM or committee to get on board by sharing some of those top end, platinum clubs and the type of content they're sharing, because they're very graceful in the words that they're using and they're not sharing everything, but they are painting a beautiful picture of who they are, and
Mhm.
they're very consistent with it. And it is hard to just, have the dollars to invest in the video and the photography to also create that experience. But if you can mimic some of those things and some of these things that we're talking about, it can go a long way on your site as well.
Absolutely. So let's jump into the different content ideas that we have for public versus private. And we've kind of broken this up into sections that we're going to talk about that are applicable for both and kind of qualify, like, what could we put on public pages? What could we put on private pages? Um, so I've got to move things around here. One of the things to think about, this kind of goes a little bit in the purpose too, is think about, as you're thinking about content ideas for either side of the website, sit back for a second and think, well, why do our members visit the site, right? What are the reasons that our members would visit the site, or why would our potential members visit the site? If I'm in my, community members' shoes, maybe I'm, it's not a club that's an actual community, but maybe I'm a neighbor of, I know that, oh, hey, that private club exists down the road. Let me see what they're all about. And if I put myself in their shoes, what information would I be looking for? What am I going to try to learn about that club? Thinking about the surprise and delight information, right? Or what value do you offer? So think about those things. Just kind of sit back and think about those things, your potential members and your current members. Why are they visiting the website? And so what is the reason? What are the things that they're going to be looking for? So let's think a little bit first about, why do members visit the website, right? So if we put ourselves in our members' shoes, why do members visit the website? What is your number one? What do you think is the number one, Victoria?
I always think reservations, but I also think like that new member experience is so crucial, because then you're getting to them. So as they started their experience at the club, if you provide a really seamless experience through the new member journey, then
Yeah.
they're able to get the most out of the resources you're going to give them, because they're always going to be able to digest. So there's so much content to digest, but they're always going to be able to go and find it somewhere if they have had the introduction of a solid way to introduce them to the information, right? So a lot of times when there's a lot of challenges that arise, they're like, oh, we send out emails too often. There's too much, we can't get them to read the information. Some of those problems can be purely solved by segmenting the list. New members is a segment, simple segment, and it's the first touch that you have. And I just I think that it's a great place to start if you're
Yeah.
looking to hone in on, some more engagement for that member side of the website.
Absolutely. What do you all think? What is the main reason you think your members go to the website? What's the number one reason? Tea times, Nathan says. Yeah,
That's for sure.
as a former member relations director, I'm like, of course they're checking out the calendar of events. They want to
Right.
know everything that's happening, all the parties that I've planned for them,
Right.
right?
Your reservations as a whole, from courts to, the calendars tied to your reservations, everything
Right.
tied to function and using the club.
I love your answer, Chantel, the directory, right? That fostering connections among the members, that all the members want to stay connected and they know that that's the place that they can go. Yeah, calendars, making reservations, upcoming events, submit comment cards. Ooh, I would love to hear some of those things, Brittany.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
even making payments, people, clubs sometimes struggle with that, like of just getting everyone to adopt paying online, and, clear communication to make that happen to increase that usage in that area.
right.
All surveys, yes, surveys for sure.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, let's kind of consider then, why would potential members visit the website? So these are some of the reasons that we threw up there. Um, I would say directions, contact, and parking information, because most of the time, what are our potential members, what are guests going to the website for? I think it's because they're coming to the club with a member or for an event or something along those lines. Um, but I don't know. What's your number one, Victoria? And everyone else can chime in too for the guest visits.
I think you're probably right on guest visits, but I also think that just like it's near and dear to me that if you were looking for a club, you'd be looking for content online. So you would search. And I think word specific, if you're in Naples, try to incorporate Naples into your copywriting because they're searching that online and Google is going to serve that information up. So I love the SEO side of it because you can hand that stuff over to them by adjusting your content and giving it to them. So I think learning about
Right.
it
We've
would be
got a lot of careers, registering for events. We have a couple of dress code mentions, which is interesting. I often wonder, I often wonder if I'm a guest, is that am I actually going to the club's website for the dress code? We'll see. Well, we've got some ideas on that coming up.
I'll throw out one other thing if anyone's interested. I just wrote an article in December boardroom about a trend of the careers page to someone's mention. It is just becoming a big trend that people are going to the website to get more information and just structuring that. And we'll look at some examples later too. But if anyone's interested in reading how that trend's going, I'd be happy to share that too.
Yeah. And Maribel asks a question, if you all want to chime into the chat and help her out there and respond to her question. Do you all include membership rates on your page or general information? But you guys can have that. Just go ahead and respond to her there. So content. So we have the opportunity, again, to kind of build an online community, educate and inform our members, surprise and delight them, foster connections, sell something, have, those calls to action. So visually, we want to think about the visuals for the site. Obviously, the website is, whether it's on a desktop or on our phone, the visuals are key in grabbing their attention and keeping their attention. We always talk about how important it is to have high quality photos and especially videos in your social content. It's the same for your website.
Right. This just is, again, your front door. So you want to provide a really warm welcome. And that really brings us into using your members as that showcase, if you're able to. And I actually love this example from Falmouth, because you can't see any of their faces. And this is hard to capture sometimes. But, it's very unique to have these grass courts. And I feel like it's just really enjoyable to see this visual and
Right.
place myself as a tennis player there. I desire that, right?
Well, and I
So
also
very
see
unique way to do it.
Well, and I also think too, and we'll talk about renovations, but when you've completed a renovation and you take all of these professional photos of your brand new space and you put models who may or may not be in your demographic into your photos for your new space, how are your members, even your potential members, how are they supposed to identify with those people in the photos if they're not real actual members? And people can kind of tell, oh, those aren't members, those are models, right? So that's really important.
So you really just want to present yourself as you know, to the viewer when you're thinking about what you're seeing on the page. You want to feel like you're at the club. So these are, true representations, cigar and wine night. We all have that. This is showing off that there's some younger members at the club and that it's youthful with kids and families. And you can really get that from how they've displayed this at Aquidneck. And then you want to provide authentic experiences, which will just touch into seasonality. But here we look at Father's Day favorites, and this is from Holderness and Bourne. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with their brand. And I just love how they change out seasonality things for their, shopping experience, because that's how we should do it at the club as well. So, some clubs, especially in the north, it's so fun to see the change of season going into the fall, and it's great to be able to connect with the viewer who is there. So that's the true communications.
Right. And part of that too is, just having your visuals, your photos, and some of your videos, making sure that they match the season so that when you're talking about, summer's coming to the club and oh, it's so exciting, but your homepage photo is something from the fall that has, beautiful fall foliage, or this photo, we were trying to find the right photo to capture what we wanted to in this, and it became to do. But this kind of the confusion of what season is it? This is out in Palm Desert. So you can imagine this is winter time, but it's palm trees and green grass and, snow-capped mountains. But we don't want to confuse our visitors, our website visitors, whether they be guests or members, as to what season it is. So make sure your visuals match the actual season
Yeah,
of the
because I
club.
mean, not always, you're not always going to tell what season it is here in this picture, but the Father's Day shows you like it relates to what that event is going on at your club. And just being really intentional about organizing your images when you have an event so that you can use them next year to incorporate in that same month, and organize by month so you're able to do that.
Absolutely. So let's think about some of the guest information. And when we talk about guest information, it's kind of that if a guest is coming to your club and they're coming to your website to learn more, they're probably going to click on the guest information tab, which most of us have that in our navigation, somewhere in our navigation. And what I find, and I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm not a fan of going to guest information pages that hits you with the dress code immediately. I might be looking for, I don't know where to park my car, and I hit the guest information tab, and automatically it's dress code, dress code, dress code. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, I just want to know where to park, right? So there's a way that we can actually personalize and warm up this public section. And that would be something like, if and I know this is difficult. This is like, oh God, Shanna, you want us to update this for every single event that's happening? Maybe not, but when you have significant events that are going to impact the club and you're going to have a lot of guests, maybe it's for a wedding, maybe it's for a convention, or maybe it's even for a golf tournament that you're having, and you want people to know, what are they supposed to do? What is the parking information? Where do they go? Where do they check in? This is kind of an example of, we're welcoming you to the Happy Valley Country Club and the Smith and Jones wedding. If this is your first time visiting our club, we want to give you some helpful tips so that you enjoy your visit. A note here, the wedding is outdoors and on grass. Ladies, you may want to wear flats instead of heels. That's helpful information. That's a very warm welcome to those potential members, to the people who are going to be coming to your club. You can let them know, we are a private club. We ask that guests remain in the area around the wedding venue. The clubhouse is reserved for members only. Your dress code information is in your invitation, that kind of a thing. So you can put that there, but there's a warmer way to share that information. And I know, Victoria, you're usually on your phone with visiting websites and things, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at, when you're in the car and you're headed to play a round of golf as a guest, or you're going to that wedding. These are great things for ChatGPT also when we're looking at good usage. Writing, 2 to 3 sentences, short and to the point, really easy to read. These are types of prompts that you can use to share a little bit of guest information that is that won't go out of date. And then also like looking at timed ability. So if you have items like the wedding information, trying to use features in your website that can expire that content so you're not having outdated information. And then also finding other ways to digest the content. So are there different layouts or options so that you can have drop downs and categorize it? Because, you know, I am oftentimes like I said, traveling in the car. I have a bunch of little kids in the back. I want to make sure that I have everything going on, or I'm quick getting ready to go somewhere. And I want to make sure that I'm presenting myself the best when I attend the club as well. So this is a really great way to make it easy for them. And it's just a cleaner way to look at FAQs, really is what they are, and bulleted list, and allow people to feel comfortable, which is their first introduction to becoming a member, right? You're also providing that experience here because you are sharing that they could become a member someday, this experience that they have. They may want to book their own wedding or event or, party in the future. So this area can provide a lot of information.
It's just so nicely organized, and it's not that it. I like this because it's not just immediately like guest information, dress code. Oh, okay, okay, I got it. But this is really nice. I would add in there
Yeah,
parking.
like I even like social media because like they can find it in the footer, but you just called attention to it. Like, oh, well, what do they have on social media? Are they going to post something from this event or whatever?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it gets them to dive in further and
A
then use
nice way
content.
to organize that information. And this is so unique. I love the way that this particular club has put in kind of the community information.
Yeah, I think like really unique places. I mean, especially Naples, when you go there, there's a lot of things to do when you're there. So organizing it by a visual aid makes it desirable and puts you in it from a member perspective on the private side as well as the public side. Like shop. Oh, what are the shopping options? Right?
Right.
So they're giving us some recommendations. And I've worked on different copywriting projects with, different committees, and they would give us their list of, ask your members what their favorites are, because that's truly from their experience and they're sharing that with the other new members or guests of the club. And it just shows like how great the dynamics and culture of that club are.
And I love this for the public pages that it's the club is part of the community and supporting the community and showcasing not only just all of the club benefits and amenities, but then also just the location in general, what's to boast. But I also think on the private side, having this kind of information is also nice, especially when we talk about bringing on new members who might have just moved into the community, who maybe it's their second home and they're not as super familiar with things, but bringing that information into our new member onboarding, which you have some great examples, Victoria.
So this is Stonebridge, and Marriott Stonebridge. She loves being able to have a welcome center to be able to, just welcome them into the club and then digest all of the little tidbits that they're doing in orientation and everything else that they have going on. You can switch over. And just some of the things, I just took a couple screenshots of hers. She has anything from different amenities, calling out specifically like they want to focus on clinics and just booking different items with them through tennis, calendar, FAQs of how to edit your member profile, things that are important to them. Different button engagement for the directory, committees, their app, renovation updates. But I also like to point out that this page should basically focus on what are the common challenges that you're having at the club? What are the most ask questions, that you could reduce those questions. It's not that you don't want to answer questions. It gives you time using your website and your private side of your site to digest this content and clearly communicate this way. It gives you time back to the members. That's the member benefit, right? They're able to get to what they want quickly, and at the same time, you're able to serve them in different ways. And that's what our job is at a club.
Right. And, just one more little section here that you could put, the our community or something where they click on that, and then that you could bring in that content that you have on the public side about the shopping or, about the local community. It's a really nice touch. I really love that.
Another thing is just like seasonality items, trying to use more of the parameters in your website that time out certain items that you want to feature on your site. So if you had a new member welcome center, you could feature, specifically tradition items. That would be one of my recommendations. Just take whatever major traditions, like 4th of July celebration is often a tradition at most clubs, and then you're highlighting that to anyone's seasonality of whenever they're joining, and then you're using timers to remove that content and then serve it back up when it needs to be. So it just makes it super intentional. They're going to see that throughout the rest of your site. They're going to be able to go to your calendar or different reservations and see that information. But this is highlighting your specific traditions and really bringing them to the forefront of that new member experience.
Yeah, it's so important when we onboard a new member that we get them involved in the member events. And what better way to do that than something large, like a big member tradition like 4th of July. And we have them throughout the year, right? We have our Easter and Mother's Day and our 4th of July and Labor Day and the holiday season. So there's always something that you can put in there to kind of showcase a member tradition for your new members that hooks them, that gets them using the club immediately and becoming part of your member traditions. So I'm going to expand my screen here so that I can see everybody, although is everybody on, we have a few people on camera. So who loves a good testimonial? Who loves testimony? Who uses testimonials? Show of hands. And you can use your reactions on your screen if you want to. Everyone, there we go, Heidi. Thank you, Heidi, with the thumbs up. Awesome. We're still getting familiar. There we go, Kevin. Good job. Right. So testimonials are key in when we shop for anything online, do we not look at the reviews? Do we not look to see if it's something that's a popular item or that other people have made a comment on, or if it's a service, yes, I've used this service. Yes, I like them. This is, we like these things. It's kind of that, buyer satisfaction. So when we share testimonials on our public side, we're just letting potential members know, hey, our members really love the club. And it's also that sense of belonging. Like, are these my people? Do I fit with them? Are these kind of the people that I want to hang out with as future, friends and fellow members? But I think we can also, I love the idea of sprinkling testimonials in throughout the private side of the website too, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I think, could be very underutilized that would be great to do is, when an event is fresh, or especially like if you want to ramp up and add a new event in and you want it to see a higher rate of participation, get those testimonials after that event happened of people who've joined the club within the last first 1 to 3 years of joining the club, because they are the most active, have just had that first experience of the communication and engagement from the club, and then use those testimonials in your advertisement for next year. So if you can just get, and a lot of those testimonials can come from those follow-up. Everyone, a lot of you had said that you do the pulse surveys and different event surveys, automate some surveys after event, and then ask them certain specific questions that you can form and tailor different testimonials, and then they can be featured as well to your members in next year's event promotions.
Right. And there's so many different ways to do it. I mean, you can, if you've collected testimonials from last year and you're promoting the event this year, you've got the flyer or photo and, a bit of information, the testimonial. You can share a testimonial on social media after the event is over and say, oh, member Mr. and Mrs. Smith love the 4th of July celebrations. Members, check out the gallery that we've just added on the Whatchamahoo's It page in our member portal. So you can use those testimonials to kind of encourage members to, go back into the website to look at the photos. There's so many different ways that you can use them. So don't think of it as just something that's a sales tactic for your potential new members. Think of it as something that is nurturing that sense of belonging and the member satisfaction.
Right. And if you don't have somewhere on your website that displays, testimonials beautifully, you could always use a button and create some type of infographic that's a PDF that opens right within your browser of your website that gives them a pretty look with your branding of several different testimonials, like, words from new members of 2023. And if I was considering joining, I would definitely read that, right? So that call to action is going to drive engagement on different areas of your site.
You can also think about if you have any photo slideshows or galleries where you could take an image of the maybe something from the event with the testimonial and use that as an image in a slideshow. Again, if you're kind of cramped for space or you don't have that feature on your current site, just other ways to kind of sneak in those testimonials. Let's talk about renovations because I know a lot of people are still, seems like there's always more and more renovations every year, like more clubs are renovating every month. It seems like, oh, here's a whole new slew of clubs renovating. But it's so important to share this information, not only with the public, but also on the private pages, obviously. But you have a great example from Addison Reserve.
Yeah, I think I wanted to just set the tone also. Someone asked um if others share their rates and information for their categories on their website, and most said, no, we don't, or we do after they request it, or we don't because we're private. And all of those answers are, good answers, because if you're this private club, that it shouldn't just be on the page where you click and see the rates in the categories that way, but there are creative ways to give them content and information. So to tie this to renovation, I just want to share, like Addison Reserve, they've been going through golf course renovation since last year. They have 3 different 9-hole courses, and they're taking you through a journey of this experience. So they have a lot of ways that they're trying to communicate it, right? It's a pain point because people aren't able to enjoy the club the same way if they're not on the golf course. So we just said high on the engagement for a member is tee times. So if they're not able to make a tee time because the course is not functioning, we have to step up the communication on it, right? It's a challenge for the club. And to do that, there's ways that you can create content for both public side and private side. Calling out this renovations page, walking through it, and then using content like a renovation ebook. You can click on this and then it takes you to a landing page where they can download it. And this is just like a couple pages from their ebook on the right side. And it takes you through visuals, different things and timelines. So a prospect can kind of see where you're at in it, because they still want people to be interested in purchasing a home at Addison Reserve. And how do you do that when the golf course is under renovation, right? So they're showing like what the vision is, but at the same time, they can use that content and information for their members. This is another unique way to gate some content, not just giving over all of your information of your rates and everything through a landing page, but it's very useful. So you could provide content that talks nothing about rates at all, and it's stuff that they want to hear. Like they want to hear if one of the highest things they're doing at your club is making tee times before they've even been joined, they want to know about golf. So they give them an opportunity to download this, and now they have a pulse on who's looking at Addison Reserve, even though they're in renovations. So they use the renovations page to show timelines of the history of it, and then they feed their content in as many places as possible. But if you look at their Instagram, they don't do the renovation updates there. It's just a very pretty, aesthetic pleasing space, and they have chosen which avenues that they're going to produce this content and share it on their website. They use LinkedIn and YouTube videos, and then they incorporate that in their website to get the most out of the time that they've spent on that content.
It's so important to have to go into the renovation with a communication plan. How are we going to communicate this to the members? What are we going to do? So thinking about all the ideas that you just mentioned, doing that before you break ground or
Yeah, if
anything
you're
gets
spending
demoed.
millions of dollars on a renovation, pushing to part of that budget and money spent should be how you're going to communicate the success of that so the club can see long-term success.
Absolutely. So careers was one of the things that you all mentioned as what people typically do when they go to the public pages. There's a lot of different things you can do on this section though, and I love this example from the country club.
Yeah, I think that they are setting the trend for this. Like there's several different clubs that I've seen recently just embarking on a different avenue than they ever have before. Before it would just be like a bulleted list of some short items and then view our job openings, which would take you to a third party site. And a lot of clubs still have that third party site because that's how they're managing all their listings. But creating an environment of like, this is joining the team, it's creating the culture of your club and you're showing it and of that experience. So you're also attracting those who want to provide this type of club experience for your members, right? So it's setting the tone for your culture right away. And it's really engaging visually and just a really great usage of using your public side to engage, prospective team employees.
And I think too, we don't often think about having our careers on the private side of the website. We think, oh, we don't need it there because our members are not applying for jobs. And we don't want little Johnny to apply for a job either, even though he's grown up at the club, right? But at some of our clubs, we have kind of historic programs. So I had the good fortune of going to Olympia Fields at the end of April. And they have this historic caddy program that's been in place since I think it's like 1923, if my numbers are correct. This is something to celebrate. This is something to boast about. This is a historical component of the club. I think this photo here is from 1928. This is a photo that actually hangs in their gallery. I think this photo includes, I can't remember the number. It's either 300 or 600 caddies that they had at the time in 1928. So this is a massive program. It's a point of pride for the members, and it's important, kind of along the lines of that history and traditions. Some of the employee programs, you have international students in hospitality or just international employees that are seasonal, whatever special programs that you have, it's okay to put that into the private side of the website and inform your members, who are the employees, who is here serving you. And always remember that employee retention is member retention. So members love to see and get to know who are the employees, where do they come from, what's their story, and they certainly love to see a stable and rich culture, not a revolving door for the employees. So this is content that you can certainly share in your private side of the website. We always like to talk about crisis communication too. This is another component of communication that we should have planned in advance, but our website, we often overlook it. We think of going to social media when we're in a crisis, which is a good place to go. And if Twitter were still the Twitter of yesteryear, it would be the great bulletin that we love it to be. But sometimes, in addition to crises, hurricanes, natural disasters, fires, that kind of thing, we also have just important announcements that are going to impact the member experience. So Neptune Cove here, this was just an announcement bar that there's a power outage at the club. That's important to put on the public side as well as the private side, thinking that too, it might be affecting members in the community. So if they're looking to go into their website and they can't remember their login information, we all know that our members do not remember their login information. So if there's a power outage at the club and they can't call the club, put this information on the public side of the website so that your members can see it. And if there's things like swim meet season, like this is happens to be a social media post that I caught from Cape Fear Country Club. But this is really valuable information. The swim meets that happen at the club affect the parking and it affect the member experience. It might also affect parking in the community. I don't know if that's the case for this particular club, but this information is really valuable to put somewhere on the homepage. That's kind of a nice little announcement or notice, even if it's a button to learn more. Click here to learn more, whether that goes to an interior public page or into the private side of the website. This is important information that's again, not only helpful for your members to learn when are the swim meets, but then also how that's going to impact their access to the club. So think about that for construction or anything that's going on in the community. So form submissions, we're kind of moving right along and through a few more ideas. And I love the idea that you've brought here, Victoria.
Yeah, this is a Colonial Country Club in Texas, and they have a really unique event page if you want to head over to their site sometime. And when you scroll down on the page, you'll see their different event venues. And then if you highlight over them, they'll show you what those venues have to offer for setup. You can go to the next one, and they'll point out other items like they're specific to their event social media pulled right into the page to make it realistic and envision yourself there. And then when you go to the form on the page, it's textured, it's beautiful, and they want to collect quite a bit of information. So we have these general requests for information forms. You all have them on your site. And when you do you go to the page and are there 25 questions there? It is good to evaluate how much you're asking them because it would be nice to know all of that so you don't have to dig into that information. But it's a hurdle. It's definitely like a hurdle in desiring to plan your event here because not here specifically, but a club that's asking 25 questions, this aesthetically makes me desire to give you this information. It's concise, the treatment is really beautiful, and I'm more apt to fill it all out because it's been designed so well. But also it's just important to consider like how many questions are you truly going to ask because you can get that information after they've requested something from you. And then you can provide them, if you're asking something about membership, then you provide them with rates and information. And this is, Brittany asked, this is Colonial Country Club in Texas. So another one, I just showed a pop-up. This is actually on the MembersFirst corporate site, and this is just like a time form. So what happens is after a certain time, after you're scrolling, you hit 50% of the page, then another automation of this form pops up. So it can be tailored to, and you can use different softwares to allow you to tailor it to like if they're a new visitor to the site or if they fall within a certain lead list of yours. And then you can give them different information that maybe they've never digest before if they're a new visitor to your site, or maybe they're a returning visitor and you want to share something else with them. So it's great to see what other options you have out there of different engagements because a lot of sites now offer different pop-outs. And to the next slide, there's different ribbon forms that most clubs are using now. I still am a big fan of footer forms because I think they get filled out a lot. Sometimes it becomes a burden to whoever is responding to them because they're getting member questions and prospect questions. But I think like that's the whole point of it is to be able to be available somewhere. And a ribbon form can also do this for you because they can choose when they want to pop it out and respond to you, and it kind of works like a footer form. But either way, this is very trendy for everyone to have these like ribbon forms that pop out, and then it kind of just shades out Sarasota Yacht Club. It shades out the rest of the site, so it focuses the viewer on this
Yeah.
page. And then
Give
you'll
the
see here,
information.
yeah, here they just say submit. I encourage everyone on the call to think outside of the box when you're using a call to action of, request my membership info. Be very put them in an active space that they're in control of that and they're more apt to fill out the form.
Yeah. Even today, like in my Tuesday tips, I had one little section hey, today's the webinar, and the button was join us today.
Mhm.
So just little language like that can make a big difference. And then also think about the websites that you visit where the pop-up actually is attractive to you and works for you. When did that pop up? Was it as you were going to exit the site or going to, navigate over something? So kind of pay attention when you are browsing through websites, just what is that behavior that you're doing and how does it make you feel? Because that's something that's good information for your own website. And then just a little bit about blogging. We know it's not for everyone, but blogging is something where on your public pages, we think, oh my God, we're going to put a blog on the public pages. It's actually a really good way to keep, again, for SEO purposes, to keep content fresh and keep it updated. And so Old Cypress does a good job of kind of, providing a few different topics of the blog. One of the things that you'll think about is, some more general information that you want to put on the public side, like the Navigating Naples Country Club 7 essential factors to ponder before joining. Those kinds of things might be more appropriate
But I would
for.
have to have it in my mouth and then
Oh,
go a little piece at a time.
hold on. Who's
We're good. I muted.
okay. I'm like, wait a minute. So breaking it up into different categories, also thinking about what type of blog posts are going to showcase your club's personality or the talents or capabilities or lifestyle, service, amenities, that kind of thing. So maybe on the public side, Chef could be adding a blog to food trends, and the Golf Pro can be talking about what's happening in new equipment in golf or the new rules of golf or whatever that might be. On the private side, it's the same thing. You kind of have to think about, maybe are we going to extend our newsletter content and we're going to have one more space to be able to after we've spent all that time writing that newsletter article, we're going to cut and paste that and put it into a blog and maybe, spice it up with a few more photos. It's kind of, there's a lot of different ways that you can use your blog, both on the public side and the private side. But just think about, again, what information do you want the public to have access to, and how might you use that differently for your members? Did
And
you?
the public would be, I would just say like the public side is really truly the what it's meant for is for people who are seeking something out that you have to give in SEO. So if it's something specific about a location or an engagement, this one is actually Willoughby, and this is a mock-up of their page that they're going to be using. The last one was Old Cypress, also in Florida too.
Yeah.
And that's a really great, that one's live and you can see that right now. But I was just gonna say with the SEO component, you're not looking to just talk about your club. You're looking for things people are searching for. So you're putting yourself again in the shoes of the prospect who is looking to engage and find out more information. And that brings us to, I think the next slide is just the layout. Hi.
Hi,
Hi,
Stephanie.
Stephanie. Um, I love that page, Stephanie. And I also think like to mention like Colonial Country Club, they haven't done it yet, but they're looking at like taking kind of that format of Willoughby's and doing something like that on their private side to curate all these archived communications so that they can, display it in a different way and continue to get the most out of the content that they're putting out to the members. And people like the Masters, the Masters is well known and they're formatting their stuff to be easy to digest, giving an opportunity to reuse their video and their blog, all their articles that they post in different magazines and get published, and then they post it here as well as blog articles. And
Right.
they also need to get their content, the most out of their content, right? So these are people to look at, like how Masters does it. They have a huge staff as well as volunteers and such. And if we see how they're handling some of their content, it's a really great way for us to also mimic that at our club.
Right. And they tie this all into just a brilliant email campaign.
Mhm.
So social media, a couple of points on social media. I cannot tell you how many times I go to a website of a club and I'm looking then like, oh, this is a beautiful website. Where are they on social media? And I go down to the footer or up in the corner, wherever you have your icons, and I click. For example, this is This is not necessarily the case with Addison Reserve, but they have a lot of icons down here. So if I were to click on Facebook, sometimes it just goes directly to the main Facebook page, to my own news feed, not to that club's Facebook page. Twitter might be something where now it's called X. Maybe you're not active on Twitter anymore, but you still have the icon. You know, do you need to have that icon there? So just make sure that one, these link to the correct account. And if you're not active on certain social media sites, then don't put those icons in on your website, because you're not going to be interacting with members there. Make them go to where you want them to go. And this is just another way of showcasing, you know, hey, find us on Instagram, follow us on Instagram. We're sharing content. And also know too, if you're going to share these kinds of carousels, how often are you updating your Instagram? So, you know, is this definitely the channel that you want to showcase? Because this is a really great way to make you think about your Instagram channel and how often you update it, because it is feeding into your page. So ultimately too, we want to make sure that no matter what content we're putting on the public versus the private pages of our website, we want to make sure that we are driving the experience. This is our house, this is our land, we own it. We are there to provide a service, to provide information, but we also, once we have a visitor, whether it be a member or potential member, once they come to the homepage, it's our job to drive their experience through the website, to keep them on the website and keep clicking, keep making reservations. So that might look like, you know, I'm landing on Canoebrook's website and I'm learning about a pickleball tournament that's coming up. And while I'm learning about that, I can click to read the profile of the champions from last year. And in that little blurb about the champions from last year, they're talking about how one of their favorite things to do during the pickleball tournament is, you know, the after hours happy hour in the bar or the restaurant or whatever. And then also something about the poolside cafe, and the pool is going to be open that weekend. And oh, by the way, we have, you know, a few accommodations available. Join us at the club. So, you know, through the content that we share, we can drive this experience to further engage our members and get them to do what we want them to do, to make the reservations, to, you know, reserve a room, whatever it is that we might want them to do. So planning and strategy. Let's go ahead and do a poll. I know we're kind of right up against the hour here. We did get started a couple minutes late, but let's go ahead and just ask these polls very quickly. So when was the last time you refreshed your public website pages? So we'll go ahead and give you a moment. When was the last time you refreshed your public website pages? In the last week, in the last month, in the last 3 months, in the last year? I never refresh the public pages. God love you if that's the case. And all of the answers are acceptable answers. We're just kind of trying to get a sense. Very few of you in the last week. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And poll and share results. So there you go, right? So we have only 6% of you are doing that in the last week, 29% in the last month, the same as in the last year. So it's kind of interesting, kind of a little
Yeah, I mean,
board there.
it prompts for an audit of just, you know, Morgan's on the call right now and from Pittsfield. And we recently had a call where we just audited some of the pages and was like, what is my experience if I just do a quick run through the site? And then you can just take, okay, now I'm going to set aside an hour and I'm just going to drill into a couple problems I'm having. And that's a really good way to start auditing your site to see where it's at.
Right. And then let's think about the private website pages. We can imagine that obviously you probably are updating your private pages a little bit more because you're updating events and that kind of a thing. So let's just kind of get an idea of how often you are updating, how many times per week, a little bit different way to phrase the question. How many times per week do you update the private website pages? Who's going to be the everyday person? Yay! We have a few. We have a few. We have 3 people who are everyday people. We love you. Okay. And 5, 4, 3. I never update the private website pages. I'm guessing that might not
Not your
be
rule.
in your wheelhouse, in your job description, right? Or the answer of more like once a month, right? You might be in off season right now. That obviously is understood, but in general. So, all right, let's go ahead and share those results. You can kind of see that it's kind of split once per week, 2 to 3 times per week. So very few people doing it every day. Awesome. Thank you for taking a moment to just kind of get a sense. It's kind of nice to know what other people are doing. I know you always love to know what other people are doing. So let me also share with you here. I'm going to share the resource, put that in the chat there, the member communication calendar. This is something that can help you. Again, this is like the 30,000-foot view of how to organize your content and understand when are you going to update things. So how often are you going to update on a monthly basis? What are you going to update? Your newsletters, probably the printed flyers. You want to put your website in there, you know, on your public pages or private pages. What are you going to update on a monthly basis? What are you sharing on a weekly basis? What are you doing on a daily basis? So this is just one way to help you. And I went ahead and dropped that into the chat there. And then I'll let Victoria talk about her checklist here.
Yeah, so there, in case there does have a, okay, CMA number, we got it. Perfect. Can you drop that?
Yep, I'm going to do that right now.
Okay, so this here, I'll just pull it up so I can mention a few things on it. I have created this content for you to just be able to basically go through your public side and your private side and say, what are my goals? What do I want to do? Oh, membership season is coming into full effect. So I need to make sure my homepage and the membership page are really clean. So maybe you're auditing that. You identify your challenges, like someone said something was broken on the site, or we haven't really paid much attention to how we engage with guests, whatever it is, and then get inspired. What would you like to use out of other websites? So there's an inspiration exercise you can look at. We just updated it the other day. You can click through there and see over 100 different examples of different sites that have launched and get inspiration of what you may want to do on your site. And then you can go through several different questions. You know, is your website over 3 years and what that does to it? Is your website responsive? You can learn a little bit more about accessibility, SEO structure, stuff like that. And then it gives you a spot for you to go and ask, like, where can compelling images or videos enhance my website? Or do you gate valuable content to acquire leads? I would encourage you to say, like, hey, you're not going to give them the category and the dollars of your membership categories, but maybe you gate that information, put it on a landing page, and then they can download that information and hear from you using automation. So there's a bunch of items for you to use
Such
there.
a helpful tool. It really, I've been using this for my own personal, you know, website as well, just to kind of, again, sit back and strategize on what do I want it to look like? What do I want the experience to be on the website? Before we get into the Q&A and takeaways, I'm excited for your upcoming webinar.
Yeah, please sign up. I think she's going to share the link.
The link is in there, right? So I've shared not only the checklist link, but then the June 27th webinar registration link is in there as well.
Great. And I'm going to be meeting with Tim. He's one of our interactive web designers. And something that's super unique is just being able to work with someone who's so creative and the inspiration and how websites come to life. I just had a meeting with him yesterday, and I always love that opportunity to get it. But come and join us. He's going to walk through before and afters of a couple new sites that he's designed himself, and it'll be really inspiring for your website too.
Excited, excited. And just a reminder too, I know most people probably don't think of me as a copywriter or website strategy person, but it is one of the services that I offer. I'm in the middle of, Brittany's on here. She can attest the fact that we've been in contact constantly about their new website at Golden Ocala, and I'm helping them with all of their copy and even their strategy, especially for the build out of their private side of the website. And then on a little bit different topic, next week, I have one of my strategy sessions, which is all about email. So when I send out my annual survey, I often get the answer to what is your biggest challenge. One of the answers this year was email, email, email. So next week, you can choose which day you want to attend, either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. But it's a strategy session that is focused just on your email. So we'll look at an evaluation of your current emails. I'll give you some resources, of course, and then we'll have a discussion and presentation and just kind of a workshopping more effective email for your club. Of course, you'll get the recording and all that fun stuff too. So there's the QR code, and then the link is also in the session. So if you're a CMAA member, some of you have given us your CMAA number, which will suffice. If not, you can just go ahead and put websites in the chat. That will be your code word. That's totally fine. That's kind of your checkout stamp so that we can comply with CMAA stuff. So what are your takeaways? What's the one thing that you're going to focus on after you leave today's webinar? What's the one thing that you're going to do or focus on? You can unmute yourself if you want. Let me put this kind of in gallery mode here so I can see everybody. If you want to unmute yourself, you're welcome to unmute yourself and tell us, or you can type it in the chat. Catherine says messages to the guests visiting on the public side. Thanks, Catherine. I like that. I'm glad that was helpful for you. Anybody else? Does anyone want to unmute and share what is their takeaway, what strategy they're going to look into first, that they're going to implement first? Or what was the most helpful part of today? The testimonials, Julie says. Yeah, you can use testimonials in so many different ways. I'm telling you. Woody says the guest information. Okay. The audit, we need to audit our public side. Have not done a full review in too long, right? Emma says they're going to work on the calls to action and the contact us. That's good. Yeah. Also, one of the easiest things you can do is check your social media links, right? That's the easiest one to do. So if you don't have a ton of time today or this week, just that one thing is going to be super helpful for you. The member onboarding tab, Carol says, that's awesome. So much potential there, right? To make that experience so good for your new members. Barb says, everything was helpful. We're in the process of building a new website with MembersFirst as we speak. Oh, awesome, Barb. Good. Congratulations. Audit and testimonials. Yeah. The join our team section too. Fantastic. Fantastic. Any other questions? Is there anything that you need clarification on, or any other, did you catch the notes? I'm going to, of course, share this replay with you so that you can go through it if you need to, or you want to talk to a board member, you're getting ready to do a website project or something, you can certainly share this replay with them. Any other comments, questions, takeaways, requests for information? Your astrological sign. Okay, awesome. All right, everybody. Well, I will go ahead and once we are wrapped up and I've edited this video a little bit, I will send you a follow-up email. Of course, we'll include the links that we shared in this session and the replay with you. And Victoria and I are here for you for any questions that you might need. You can certainly give us a call, give us an email. send a carrier pigeon. We are happy to contact you in any way that is convenient for you. So I appreciate you. I thank you for joining us today, and we will see you the next time. All right. Thanks,
Stay tuned,
everybody.
everyone. Thank you for coming.
Cheers.